Ukraine has spent the last several months hitting targets deep inside Russian territory, successfully disrupting Moscow's critical supply lines and massive oil refineries. These strikes are causing immediate economic friction. Recently, Russian-appointed authorities in occupied Crimea were forced to halt sales entirely and ration fuel for the public. If you read the official statements from Kyiv's military commanders, the Eastern Front line remains securely under control, with Ukrainian forces even managing to recapture territory. But the map tells a different story. This chart shows the geography of the Donbas region. This is Kostyantynivka. It acts as the final major bottleneck, protecting the cities of Kramatorsk and Sloviansk to the west. If the defenses give way here, Russian forces gain a clear path to those remaining strongholds, putting them in a position to seize the entirety of the Donbas. The reality on the ground contradicts the official reports from Kyiv. Frontline soldiers report that Russian troops have already slipped past the city borders. The entire area is effectively a ghost town, a gray zone controlled by no one. The streets are abandoned, reduced to ruins, and watched from above. So how does a military capable of crippling heavy infrastructure hundreds of miles away find itself losing its grip on its most vital defensive gateway? The answer lies in how this specific battle is being fought on the ground. Capturing this city isn't happening through massive, sweeping armored charges. It is an agonizingly slow process, fought building by ruined building. Russian infantry use the dense summer foliage and massive piles of urban debris to slip behind Ukrainian lines. Sometimes they crawl through the dirt to advance 100 meters in a single day. Open gaps between buildings act as kill zones. When Russian soldiers expose themselves, Ukrainian drones strike. But monitoring these sightlines requires defenders to stay hyper-vigilant. The constant trickle of enemy groups exhausts the pilots and depletes their ammunition. By breaking their advance down to a crawl, Russian forces create a chaotic environment where heavy conventional defenses are useless and territory is conceded inch by painful inch. To tip the scales in this close-quarters combat, Russia has adapted its drone strategy to target the human operators directly. Because they are so close to the front lines, Russian units don't rely on sophisticated long-range equipment. They launch swarms of cheap commercial drones specifically to conduct surveillance and hunt down the hidden Ukrainian launch sites. Once a Ukrainian pilot's position is exposed, the Russian military doesn't send infantry. They call in heavy artillery and aviation to flatten the structure entirely. This creates a severe imbalance. Ukrainian drone pilots spend their energy hunting individual foot soldiers, while Russian forces use overwhelming firepower to eliminate the pilots, giving their own infantry room to keep moving forward. This map shows how that internal pressure is paired with an external squeeze. Russian forces are capturing villages to the west, deliberately moving to cut off the land routes bringing in food, ammo, and fresh personnel. With drone pilots being systematically targeted inside the city and logistical roads choked off from the outside, holding Kostyantynivka becomes a mathematical impossibility without a massive influx of reinforcements. Frontline monitors and the soldiers fighting in the streets are openly admitting that those reinforcements aren't coming. They lack the manpower to organize new assaults or even maintain their current grip on the rebel. If the city falls, military logistics for the entire eastern sector will rapidly deteriorate. Supplying the troops who are still holding out in Kramatorsk will become incredibly difficult, leaving that defensive line highly vulnerable. Striking oil refineries deep inside Russia damages Moscow's economy and creates fuel shortages back home. But economic pain does not immediately stop the physical advance of infantry on the ground. Without a change in strategy to protect supply lines and counter Russian pilots, local forces simply cannot absorb the constant losses. In a war of attrition, numbers dictate the outcome, and the final gateway to the Donbas is slipping away.